wow, just like that, back with another portable Clint. Guys, let me tell you something. There are some young legends in this business. When I got started, there was always a couple of people that you needed to beat. One was Jim Holmes, and there's a couple other people, but there was this name that always popped up, Sean Whalen, and here he is. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. How are you, buddy?
It's kind of weird with the hydraulics that you've put in for my entrance.
Well, yeah, man.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Sean.
Yes, sir.
You're a legend in this business. Do you realize that?
I don't really know that.
You
I don't
do.
know.
You are.
I mean, I knew there was a. I think we all have our windows, right? We
Sure,
all have our
sure,
windows
sure.
where it's like we have our few years of heat. I
Right.
think all of the guys that we came up with, we've all had our few years based on certain things. I was talking to Darga when he was a
Chris
Viking.
Darga, yes.
Yeah, when he was a Viking on the those commercials, the Capital Ones, and he was doing his Seinfeld. I mean, everyone's had their moments, and mine was mid '90s. I had a nice trail after the milk commercial.
Well, okay, we're going to get to all that. See,
Okay.
the thing is about you is you've had success in the commercial world. You've had success in the movie world.
Okay.
Which is nice, man.
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
people just have it in one thing.
Right.
You've had it in a couple of things.
Yep.
Okay, Sean, tell me, how old were you when you started thinking about coming out to Hollywood, California, or when you wanted to become an actor?
Well, I enjoyed it since I was like 5 or 6, and
Where were you living while you were
I was
enjoying
in
this?
Maryland. I was in Olney, Maryland. It's a suburb in between Baltimore and DC.
Okay.
And I always liked it, and then I directed and starred in a production of Rumpelstiltskin in 5th grade, and I remember sliding out on my little slippers to take my bow, and the school went nuts, and I was like, oh, this is good. I like this. This is fun. I got to do something I liked. I showed it to people, and they appreciate it. I liked it.
Awesome, okay.
So I did that was my thing, not as much through junior high school, but I hit full bore in high school. All the school productions, directed some, and all the community theater ones as well. And then I figured, I'd like to get into an acting program, and I got the, awards on my senior year.
You actually thought the word acting program, not into acting, you want to get into an acting program.
Yeah, like at a college or a university, and I had 2 choices. One was Catholic U, Father Hardkey, it was like right from there, right up to Broadway, right?
Okay.
That was the one. And then my dad, my mom and dad were divorced, he lived in California, he was like, listen, your brothers are going to school, why don't you look at stuff out here? And so I looked at UCLA,
Okay.
and I got into UCLA, and back then it was like, what, $1,200 a year? For in-state, it was nuts.
That's it?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was very, very little.
Dang.
And I mean, that's not room and board, but that's
Oh, yeah, but
tuition,
still, man, that's great.
And I didn't realize this till later, but I was one of like 15 people in the whole U.S. that got in. And I didn't do an audition. That was the other weird thing. But maybe it was my recommendation letters, or
Who was your recommendation? Anybody impressive?
no, but I think I was also what they call, because I just went through this with my daughter, and I was geographically desirable.
Okay, I got
Because
you.
I was from Maryland. It was a small town in Maryland,
Sure.
so it's good for them. It's geographically diverse, So I think that helped me a lot. And I really liked the program. Did a play with Daphne Zuniga, but then there was kind of this weird negative vibe at UCLA because I was a freshman and I got a play. But the part was for a kid who looked like he was supposed to be 15. The guy I was up against looked like he was 40. So I was like, dude, if I can have a word fall out of my mouth without vomit, I'm going to get the part because I look so young. And so I did it, and there was this weird back, and I thought, I came to California. I don't want to be in the back of some building, building sets with people who are also snippy about, not positive. And so I actually dropped out of it for a few years, but at the end of my senior year, there was a place I worked, and a woman talked about the Groundlings, and I thought, that sounds like something fun. I went and saw it. And then when I started joining
Anybody
the
famous
Groundlings,
performing when you went to go see it?
when I was there, it was Pee Wee Herman was finishing up. Elvira
Hartman?
had just gone through. Phil Hartman, for sure. Mindy Sterling was my teacher. Kathy Griffin was in the main company then. Like, there was a lot of people. And I thought that that seems exactly right. And when I went through the first class with Steve Hibbert was my teacher, I mean, I was like, oh, this is it. They're fun, supportive, the energy was great. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be a waiter. You know, I busted my butt. I got in, and I couldn't afford to attend the classes. So I went, okay, I'm gonna defer. We got in September. I deferred to January and just worked my butt off, double shifts to get up to a waiter status, which I did
man.
at
Okay.
Chin Chin. And then when I got
Chin Chin,
in,
which Chin Chin?
Brentwood.
Okay.
Chin Chin Brentwood,
Okay.
recently featured in the OJ movie.
Yes,
and they
yes.
actually did the old uniforms that we used to wear, but they still had it tablecloth, and it was not tablecloth when I was there.
Is that where they ate the night of, or is that just where they filmed it?
They filmed. I mean, they lived right in the neighborhood. So
Right,
there's
yeah,
no
yeah.
way they didn't go there. So they just did a scene. Schwimmer did a scene
I got
there
you.
with his family and
Okay.
stuff. But I, became a waiter and started at Groundlings, and I thought, this is fun. And I tell my students, I said, do a 2-year program. Dude, give it 2 years of your life. And then after 2 years, at the end of it, you go, all right, am I progressing? And that's not even, am I on TV?
Right,
am
right.
I progressing? And
Do you
at the end of
enjoy
it?
it?
Yeah, do you enjoy it? Is it fulfilling? Are you accepting the lifestyle?
Oh,
Not
nice.
the fun of it, but
Yeah.
the lifestyle
Yeah.
that goes with it, the up and down, the uncertainty. And after 2 years, I got into the main, the Sunday show. So I was like, okay, that's going well. And then after the Sunday show, I got agents because they came to the Sunday show. So blessed. Pam Ellis and Doug Ely.
Oh, nice. AKA.
Yeah, AKA. So then I was kind of starting to get commercials, and yeah, so it was, my
Okay,
whole
what's
life.
the first big thing you book?
The first big thing I booked, I was doing, you mean commercial-wise?
Well, no, you tell me. What was the first thing you booked
the
as
first
an
thing
actor?
I'm booking is I did a Caboodles commercial. That was my first.
Caboodles?
Caboodles was a makeup kit that looked like a fishing tackle box.
Okay,
And
oh.
it was very big with the young ladies, and they came basically a fishing tackle box with different colors.
Okay.
Literally,
okay.
that's all it is.
Okay.
And that got me my my SAG card, and then probably bigger after that was the Pizza Little Caesars campaign.
Was that the one that put you on the map?
Kind of, because it was very deadpan. And
What'd you do in
Mark's
it? What'd you do in it? Mark's Story
there
was
was
great.
one. You remember Mark's
Yeah,
Story?
yeah,
Did you
yeah.
work for him?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was awesome.
He was.
And he loved the deadpan.
He
You know
did.
what I mean? He loved the deadpan.
Beth Holmes was one
Beth
of his.
Holmes. Yep, that was like
Yep.
off of La Cienega, right?
Oh, are you talking about Loudmouth?
Way
Yeah, no,
near.
On
you know
Your
what I'm
Mark.
talking
On Your
about.
Mark.
Yes, On Your Mark. Yeah. So I
Across the street from Norm's.
Yes, exactly. Yep, that's the one. And you'd always park at the car wash and run across
There
the
you
street.
go. That's it, man. That's
and
it.
I was doing those, and what I did was I was always, the not company, the company that's not,
Yeah,
so they would
I hear
say,
you. I was that guy.
it's one with no service, and it was a deadpan thing, and you go, hello and welcome. He wants extra cheese. He wants extra cheese. You want extra cheese? That'll cost you. That costs him, right? It costs you. That kind of
Yeah,
it's
I
totally
remember-
the Mark Story
yes,
rhythm.
yes,
and that
yes.
whole kind of thing. And the reason I did well, and I didn't even know this, I enjoyed spiking my hair.
I remember your
enjoyed it.
spike look. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't do it because I was trying to craft anything. I wasn't doing anything specific. I was just that I liked it. I thought it was funny.
Was that
And-
Billy Idol type of? Did you get him?
No, I don't know why. It's because well, the spiked hair was a rebellious look, and in the 70s or the late 70s, early 80s, everyone had the feathered hair.
Sure.
And I went to a barber, and this is a true story. I said, I want the parted in the middle feathered hair. Well, my hair is very straight, and then I have a cowlick right here.
Okay.
So this guy goes, no problem. Very cocky. He starts doing it. I swear to God, Clint threw down his scissors after 20 minutes and walked out to have a cigarette. He was so pissed he couldn't do it. So here I am, and finally with straight hair, have a hairstyle that works in my favor. So I spiked it all up.
Nice.
And I think I just enjoyed it. And what Mark Story told me later, he's like, you look like Stan Laurel, a punk Stan Laurel.
Yes, you are. Yes.
But I didn't. But that's the thing. It's so funny. Like I didn't craft an image or anything.
Right.
Like I just was like, okay, this is what I like. And so I was lucky that they just thought it was a really weird, ironic look for a punk guy that looks so silly, you know?
Isn't there a lesson there, like when you're trying to do something it doesn't work, but
Yeah.
when you do it because you like it?
Yeah, be yourself.
Yeah, be
Just
yourself.
be yourself
Yeah,
100%. I mean, we can't change that, and that's the hardest thing even now. You just kind of have to do you, you know? I used to, you know, I had a beard last year. Like, my ex-wife hated facial hair, so of course I grew a beard for 2 years after we got divorced. And my new girlfriend loved it very much. And I was doing that, and then I was angsting about cutting it off. I go, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Right now, I want to cut it off for this part. I actually like it right now. And, you know, I have a good friend that's going to do some recent headshots, but it's like I can't stress about, like, is it better to... I started to, you know, is it better to have the beard? Is it better not to have the beard?
It's hard to have a beard in this town.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly doing that in your head.
Yeah. Then you don't want to be that beard actor.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
And we know a few guys that are working a lot that are beard actors.
Yes.
All very good.
Yep.
No diss to them, but they have, like, nailed the beard market.
Yep.
So I just thought, you know what? I have to just trust that this is where I'm at right now. I'm going to be me.
Sean, I never get personal on this, but you said something, so I'm going to ask about this, and we're still going to stay on the business with this question.
No problem.
You said your ex-wife.
Yes.
Is it your ex-wife because of this business?
I don't think so. I mean, she actually came out of the closet, so no.
There's that.
There's that. But I think she believed, and I think it was a hit on the stress of our marriage for sure, that the ride of the 90s was just going to continue for several decades.
Right.
You know, my thing was always commercials, movies, small parts in movies, and reoccurring roles, guest stars, and then you're series regular, and then just go from series regular, and doing movies in the summer, and that was it. But that never happens necessarily that way. And there used to be a time where if you had a really good recurring, my friend Lisa Goudreau, that was on the Sunday show with me, had a great recurring on what was the Helen Hunt show and Paul Reiser.
Yes, the one the Mad About You.
And that's where she created the Phoebe character, and then that's how it went into Friends. But hey, she was cast in Frasier.
That's right.
Was fired after half a day. And I remember seeing her, and she was so...
You saw her the day after she was fired?
No, I saw her like a couple weeks after she was teaching at the Groundlings, and I ran into her, and she was obviously devastated.
Yeah, because that's one of those things that would make you change your whole career if you let it.
And she knew it. It was you know, definitely guaranteed for, you know, 24 on the air, no questions asked, and she knew it was going to be a hit, which it was really hard, but her sweet revenge was Friends a year later, literally a year later.
That's crazy.
Or maybe two, a year or
but
two,
still,
but it was
man,
very
that's great.
quick. But, you know, that was my plan, but then the kind of bottom dropped off after 2001, and, you know, when the business went through that big upheaval, and then the corporations bought everything and said, what do you mean Craftsman? What do you mean quotes? All that stuff is gone.
Yeah.
And that put me in a very tough spot. So I actually had to go and do a side gig. I had a friend who I was on her show for Nickelodeon with Emma Roberts called Unfabulous, and I was doing that recurring and still auditioning, but I was selling pots and pans and blenders and water in Costco roadshows.
Okay.
I did Costco
Sean.
roadshows, and I recruited, or came to me. Greg Bigley did that for a while.
Yes.
Too. Yeah.
Okay, listen, I didn't say this when Greg told me that story.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it now.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to a Costco and seeing you sell those.
Really?
I did not say hi.
No,
I did not say hi to you because I felt I don't listen. Forgive me for this. I felt sorry. Like, wait, this is the guy who I've been trying to go after to compete with, and now he's selling it. What does that say about me that I'm not doing what you're doing? You had the guts to do that.
Yeah.
So literally, my hat off to you on that.
Yeah.
Because that scares me, knowing I have to go get a side gig.
Well,
but you did that.
Well, I did it,
and this was after you had great success.
And well, listen, I had a edict with my companies, and I said,
You had a
I
what?
want to like a law, like I said, an edict. I said I don't want to be in.
How come I've never heard this word
You haven't
before?
heard edict before?
No.
It's a word.
Okay,
It's a
all
word.
right, I'll look it up later.
But you say I don't want to be anywhere in the LA area, you know?
Okay.
But then sometimes, I think it must have been Van Nuys.
Yes.
Because Van Nuys was right near my house.
Yes.
And I thought, you know what? It's a great store and I sell well and it's 5 minutes away. Because usually I'm driving 45 minutes to an hour away, and I go, that was the only store I would do. And I thought, well,
You're not more worried because that is 5 minutes away and your neighbors
I
would
was
see you?
worried, but then a friend of mine, Jeff Nathanson, who's written huge movies, he wrote Jurassic World recently. I met him on Twister. And another TV producer friend of mine said, there's no way that a producer is going to walk into a store and say, oh my God, there's Sean Whalen. Call his office and go, do me a favor, make sure we never hire Sean Whalen because he's trying to feed his
I know.
family.
Yep.
He goes, that's just not the way it is. And we saw it in the recent Trader Joe's thing.
Yep,
The
sure,
guy
yeah, exactly.
From, the Cosby Show.
Show.
No one disrespects that you're trying to take care of your family. The other thing my producer friend said is like, no one gives a crap about you as much as you think they do.
I know,
There's
you're
no
right.
producer's going to sit with that. They're going to go, oh, Sean Whalen must be a little, must be a lean year, and that's probably about as much as it will be.
Yep.
And I actually got work out of it. I got a script option because a friend of mine saw me there, and he said, listen, the fact that you're even doing that and having the guts to do that, do you have any projects right now? And I said, yeah, I just written one, and he read it, he loved it, and he optioned it for like 4 or 5 years, my friend Jeff Nathanson, because he actually respected it more. You
Seriously,
know?
man.
And it was humbling. I'm telling you, it was really humbling because all day long, of course, people were going, what happened? Aren't you on TV? What's, you know? and sometimes I'd say, sometimes I would jokingly say, hey, I'm researching a role. And then
Would you really say that? Because I would say that. I would totally go with that.
I said that sometimes, but then sometimes said,
You know what,
hey,
I'm
I got kids and I got to
Yeah.
feed my family.
Seriously,
So
man.
it was really, really humbling. And then luckily when my ex-wife came out and the marriage ended, I mean, obviously she was much happier and I was much happier because I knew something was up, but she didn't even know what was up, and then figured it out for herself.
Was she telling you to? I'm sorry. Were you married to her at this gig?
Yeah.
Was she out? Was she saying, "Hey, go get a job. You need to go get a job"?
Well, the deal was that she was going to go. Well, she, again, because she thought it was, she goes, listen, we're going to go from, and she was a producer at VH1 Behind the Music. And she was going to say, she said, you know what, this gravy train of the 90s will keep going if we're just a little smart with our money, because we bought a house and we saved up for it really well. She said, if you're smart with your money, we should be okay. But then the bottom dropped out. So she was home with our first child. I had my ex-manager, who I love to death, but it was one of those managers that you called as a friend to go, you know, they're like, you're Sean Whalen, you're amazing, thanks, but not really great at the business.
Right.
We've all had those.
Yeah,
We just want them to tell us we're great every day.
Yes,
But they
exactly.
don't get us any work. I had a friend who put me as a series regular on a series called Special Unit 2. She was like, you know what, you got to keep your options open. We're going to do a guest star contract as opposed to a special guest star contract as opposed to just a series regular. Well, they moved it to Canada, and the first thing they did was cut me out because they didn't have to.
Right.
Because when they do something, they want to like say, well, we're not just moving it to Canada, we're
Retooling it, yeah.
And so, of course, they got rid of me, and this Canadian kid was obviously a lot cheaper. And that phone call came a week after my daughter was born. Like, my mother-in-law gave us a gift of a nurse to come for the first 5 nights to help us do a wet nurse. That woman shut the door. I went in to take a nap. 2 minutes later, I got the call, you're not on the series.
Okay.
That's when the bottom dropped out, and I was scared. And so I tried to hustle things for a couple years. It didn't work. And then my second daughter was born. And my ex-wife was like, hey, I'm going to get a job. But then I walked in one day, I saw her playing with the babies. And I just know her. She was always the manager of our money
Right.
and handled things. And I was the proactive one. And I was like, she's not going to hustle to get a job when she's wanted to be a mother her whole life. She had she just died
Among
of her
other
life.
things.
Among other things. And then I said, you know what? I'll go get a gig. And this neighborhood guy said, hey, I do these things. You can make $10,000 in 5 days. Never happened. But he was a salesman, he sold cookware, so what are you going to think? But he got me into it, and the first thing I did was say, you know what? I know I know acting, and I know that it's very similar to sales because it's all truthful, and if you're truthful and honest, people will trust you. I said, let me be your manager. I will train people, but then they will give me a flexible schedule.
Okay.
So that's what I did. And so that's how I worked it. And then when I went into blenders, I did the same thing. But it was a tough time.
Tell me the last day you sold a blender. Why was that the last day?
Well, because they were changing the entire system. A new CEO came in, and they said they were going to change it, and I was going to have like one job every 6 weeks, far away, and I had no control over my career. The training thing was
I hear you have to
done.
buy your own fruit and everything you use.
Yeah, you do it all. And,
Okay.
and what was great is a few years later, I got a huge settlement because they broke the 1099 rule.
Really? Okay,
Yeah, I was
okay,
actually an
okay.
employee, but I got a nice little chunk of change for a couple years for that, like 20 grand over a couple years because they cheated us out of, we were employees. And so that was panicky, and then I started to work on coaching, which was okay, but not as good money. And so, long story short, of course, that was very stressful on my ex-wife. I'm sure that raised tensions and brought her to an unhappiness to finally, make her say,
Sure, yeah.
There's something more going on.
Right,
here,
right.
So yeah, it was definitely stressful for sure.
Okay. Sean, when you moved out here, do you want to take a bite while I ask this question? I'm trying to make the question as long as possible.
Please do. I'll take a quick
Sean,
bite.
I'm going to ask you this question twice. At the beginning, I should have asked you this at the beginning when you came into town. What was it that you wanted to achieve here in Hollywood? What was your number one goal at the beginning?
You know what was funny? I talk about this a lot, and this is why I tell my students, I want you to be aware, but I want you to be blissfully ignorant. I didn't know what I wanted necessarily. I just thought, it'd be fun to work in movies and TV. And that is as specific as it got. I just love doing the groundlings. I love my life. I love making money, going there, creating, being in the shows. I just enjoyed that. I never had a plan until I started working. And then I thought, this, and then I came with the plan I told you, guest stars, movies,
So, okay, there was never just one thing you were
No.
shooting for.
No, I just knew that I like to be funny and I like to make people laugh more than I wanted to go into a drama class and throw up in a ball and cry,
Okay. Sean, what was the thing? I know we already said the Little Caesars pizza, but what was the thing that people started stopping you on the street for?
The Got Milk commercial.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second because I've
Okay.
heard a couple of stories about this.
Yeah.
That was a gigantic commercial.
Yes.
It was. Will you tell them a little bit about
So
which one it was?
it was the
Was it the very first Got Milk commercial?
very first. There was 4 in that set. They did 4. Basically, a company in San Francisco, the California Milk Board, said we want to do a series of milk commercials. It was the California Milk Board at that time was a farmer, and he did something that is never done in any kind of financial people who invest in entertainment. He said, well, I don't know anything about this business. I trust you guys to come up with the campaign.
Wow. Okay.
And if this was a huge company, they never would have let him
Never.
be Aaron Burr or any of that. They would have been terrified of that
Yes.
creativity.
Yes.
People don't know who that is, and it was a weird commercial. I didn't know about the duel when I went in there. So we had an audition, same place.
Same place is over on your
On La
mark.
Cienega, yep.
Same director, Mark Story.
No, it wasn't Mark Story. It was Michael Bay.
Okay.
And we
okay.
walked in, and the weird thing was, Kevin West, a good friend of mine, you should have him on the show. He's back in town. But he was just on a huge roll.
I remember.
Time.
I remember.
You would, if you were after Kevin West on a commercial, it would literally be like, screaming laughter,
Yes.
him waving,
Yeah.
doing something. Okay, see you guys later. Do something funny on the way out. Something funny, shuts the door, and then they're like, Sean Whalen. You're like,
I gotta follow that.
I gotta follow that. So it was kind of the buzz is like, oh, and Michael had worked with Kevin before. It's like, oh, he's gonna get it. You know? And it felt like that.
We take ourselves out so many times with that
does.
talk.
And it was just, I was like, oh no. So I guess maybe it was I had nothing to lose, right? So I went in there and they said, shove the peanut butter, shove it in your mouth. And then the phone call, and then just...
Wait, I just want to remind people, you're working at where are you working at?
So here I am, I'm at a museum surrounded by Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton, dual stuff.
Right.
The bullet, paintings, you know, books, everything. And it's my life's passion. And I'm making a peanut butter sandwich with just peanut butter and bread. Phone rings. I pick it up and they say, for $10,000, who shot Alexander Hamilton? And my mouth's full of peanut butter. And my life is pinnacling right to this moment, and I can't say it because my mouth's full of peanut butter. I go, I can't say it. And then I try to say it again, and they're like, I'm sorry, what? And they're like, well, I don't understand. So I'm trying to pour milk to get a glass of milk, and I'm out of milk, and I can't do it. And I'm trying to say Aaron Burr, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, well, next caller. So that's what we were told to do, to play with that. Well, what I found out later is the reason I got the job is most people screamed and yelled and pounded the table and yelled and pulled their hair out and were very upset, and I was the only one to see it as my life is over. And I looked at the phone and I went, like it was all leading to this, and that moment's over. It's like the ass on the ice in ice skating, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you get up and skate anymore.
Right.
We know it's over,
Right.
you know? And they loved that I did that. So then I got to the set, and Michael Bay just said, and first of all, I walked into the set. The set's beautiful.
It looks beautiful.
It's such an amazing looking set. The costume was great. And they said, you know, just do what you did in the audition. So I guess I gave it an end. They didn't have a button they weren't really sure about. And so that's all I did all day long. And I, you know, got canker sores and I got...
Wait, why'd you get canker sores?
The oil and the salt. Canker sore. I couldn't eat peanut butter for 3 years.
Seriously?
Yeah. Well, I would shove one in my... Well, like, we'd finish a take. I did one person come up, spit it in the bucket. The next person hand me a bottle of water, rinse, spit that in the bucket. Second I go like this, Q-tips all up and down. Then they'd make sure that I have nothing on my teeth, and then they'd hand me another one. And we just go. Go. And then sometimes you're sitting there, and they go, freeze. We got a lighting problem, and I'm full of it. And then your mouth just starts doing the job. They're like, well, he's not gonna chew. We gotta still break this down. And just wet peanut butter and bread would just start to get dissolving and going down your throat. It was crazy, but it was. Everyone says, oh, was it so fun? I said, well, it was very technical, you know?
Yeah.
Michael Bay had really cool little cameras on sticks doing really cool stuff. So it was just very, very technical. And he turned that around editing-wise. It won a Clio a week later, like a week and a half later. Unheard of in commercials. Man. It was insane, and I could not walk down the street. Well, you know, back in the day, it was local commercials. So I was getting $1,100 every quarter pre-tax. So I was really walking away with $600 a quarter. But it was running night and day, and I couldn't walk down the street. I mean, people were going, "Hey, bird, got milk and here's $10,000." I mean, they were yelling it night and day, and it was overwhelming. Then I was in a class, an acting class, and a girl said, "You're the guy from the milk commercial?" Yeah, and I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I work at Amblin Entertainment," and I said, "Oh, that's cool." She goes, "Yeah, your life's gonna change," and I said, "Why?" And she said, "Steven loves your commercial."
Ooh.
And I went, "Steven who?" She goes, "Steven Spielberg, he loves your commercial." And that was the time when Spielberg was mining all the independent movies to give those actors a break.
Awesome.
Movies. Vince Vaughn, remember, he did that from Jurassic Park and all that stuff. So he put me, I went to the Twister audition. It was,
where was the Twister audition?
Oh, God, I don't remember 100%. I don't remember. I think it was at the Warner Brothers. It was at Warner Brothers lot. Remember when we did that Warner Brothers exit right off of Olive, where you'd go to their commercial auditions?
Yes.
You know, that was near the water tower.
Yep.
That's where it was.
Okay.
And I was in there, and I mean, our lines were nothing. It was like, you know, look, oh my God. Hey, buddy, pull over. You know, like there was hardly anything.
You were the
for
camera
us
guy
to
in
do.
Twister.
Yeah. No, I wasn't the camera guy.
No,
I was the drive. Me and Alan Ruck were in charge of the maps. We were in
Right.
charge of maps and the
That's
the
what I
route,
meant. Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
the
But you
route.
guys were in the car.
Yeah, we were in
going-
the car right behind him. But but she looked at him. I remember right in front of my face. She goes, "Yeah, he's very hot right now." And I went, "Well, like, what am I supposed to say to that?" And I got the gig. And
I'm sorry, was Steven in the room when you read?
no, Stephen was Jan de Bont, the director.
Okay.
So
He was
and-
just the executive producer.
yeah, he was just the executive
Right.
producer.
Just like that's just, yeah.
And so that's what changed it. Once people knew that I got in Twister, and everybody knew that it was the guy from Speed,
Yep.
Spielberg, a tornado movie. I'm sorry, still, and I'm biased maybe, but one of the best trailers I've ever seen, and still to this day, it's such a great trailer for Twister. That heat, that preheat when you're on a big movie and everybody knows you're in that movie, that's really good. And then when you get back, but even before the movie gets out, it was like bam, 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 bam. I was guest starring TV shows. I had heat. And I remember going to Men in Black, and I heard Barry Sonnenfeld listening to my tape for like 2 seconds. Then he brought me and he goes, "You're very funny. You're obviously very talented. You're great." And
This is also executive producer Steven
executive producer Steven Spielberg, and they said, "Yeah, you got that part." Well, meanwhile, I just found out that while I was in that meeting downstairs, all my buddies were trying out for the part that they were literally offering me upstairs.
Wow.
And I was like, I've been on both sides of heat.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you and
yeah.
I have been in those rooms where you're sitting there, and the assistant goes, like, "Yeah, is he accepted the offer for the role of blah blah blah?" And the one we're trying out
Yes,
for,
yes.
they're negotiating some stars. They're saying like, "Yeah, Andy Dick wants that part," and blah 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 blah. So it was knowing heat, and I remember that time because I would walk into an audition and. Back in the '90s, we all ran into each other.
Right, yeah,
we
all the time.
ran into each other all the time, commercials, and my buddies would go, "Yeah, dude, just don't worry about it. She's not in a great mood. She's in a bad mood. Things are gross." And then I'd walk in there like, "Sean, how are you? It's so great to see you. You're so amazing." And it was just this few years where it was just endless. It just seemed like it was
Sean,
going to go
what's it
forever.
feel like? What's it feel like to have that much heat? Like, I've had heat, but
Yeah.
never that much heat like you had. When you're driving down the street, what are you thinking? Like, dude, life is great. Are you
know
scared
what?
that it's going to stop? What are
I
you
wish
thinking?
I knew at the time how lucky I was, but when I went to Groundlings, it went well. I was at the top of my class, everyone. I never had to stall. And I thought, this is the way it was in high school. And I thought, oh, this is just my life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of weird. I'm listening to Anna Kendrick's biography right now. She did one Broadway play, nominated for a Tony. First movie, nominated for an Oscar. Like, she had no understanding of it being any other way,
Yeah.
So I guess I felt at that time that, this is what I thought would happen, and it's just going to go on forever, and then I'll get a series and things like that. And that's what I wanted more than anything. I wanted a sitcom. I wanted to lead in a sitcom. My buddy Sam Lloyd got one. There was a couple of my friends that were on series, and I just was so hungry to be a regular on a comedy series. I'd done tons of guest stars. And I just thought, okay, this is the thing. When The Bottom dropped out in 2001, I look back and go, I had no idea how lucky I was. I had no idea how lucky I was.
Yeah.
I had just an ego that had not, I don't think I was cocky. Me
No,
back then.
Sean, I have
never
never seen you like, hey, I'm the dude here.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were never like that. This is the reason why we all loved you and
Right.
we're rooting for you.
Right.
Because you were one of us getting
Right.
this is happening to.
Yeah. So that's when I didn't know. I didn't know how lucky I was. I didn't know that it was great and that it would ever end. I just thought, oh, this is the way it is. But, then I saw Lisa struggle after Friends. You know what I mean? She was doing these creative, great HBO things, which were...
How was she
people didn't
struggling?
understand.
Not
struggling. Of course, financially, she'd never be struggling.
Well, yeah, I know, but I
obviously,
want to know about the people who we think have it made.
So let me put it this way.
Please.
Alan Ruck came to my acting class.
Alan
And
Ruck from Ferris
Alan
Bueller.
Ruck from Ferris Bueller. Yeah, Alan Ruck from
Succession.
Speed, Succession. We're still friends. We text every once in a while. He came and said, after he was doing stuff in Chicago, then he went to New York. He had done the Neil Simon play with Matthew Broderick about them.
The
military one.
Biloxi Blues.
Biloxi Blues. That's how he got the gig for Ferris Bueller.
There was another guy in there. He was very hot at the time. He was
The principal, or
no, another one of those guys.
kids.
He was in How I Got Into College. Remember this guy?
Oh, okay. I don't. Right.
All right. Patrick Dempsey dated his mom.
Okay.
Mom.
But he literally says, so he was told to go to LA,
Okay.
get a sitcom. Doesn't go well. They don't, it doesn't translate. Back in the day, New York and LA did not mesh that much, and there wasn't that, a New York actor is coming. It happened later.
Sure.
People loved it, and the Chicago actor, the New Zealand actor, but he came, wasn't going well, he couldn't get work. He ended up working in a factory in East LA, and these guys would literally go, "Hey man, aren't you the guy from Ferris Buford? Aren't you Ferris Buford?" He told that story, and this was after he had done a major motion picture, and he was working in a factory. Then he went back to New York, started doing some plays, reheated up his career. Then he was doing sitcom stuff, or he did a few more movies, and then back in LA again. And I think he'd done some serious stuff, and then there was a huge gap, and then he was a bartender for a year or so. This was Alan Ruck. Everybody, but the same thing. People would, at the bartenders, like, "Hey man, you're from Ferris Bueller." I mean, he said, can we all imagine after Ferris Bueller was such a hit and such an iconic that he's working in a factory?
That scares me, man.
Later?
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, but after the Blenders thing, I tried to make that, and then we sold our house, and because we got divorced, and luckily that I just have been so frugal with that money because I had to be. It was the best. My ex-wife wasn't great 100% at finance. We didn't agree on 100 things, but man, she pushed us to get into that house that was above our budget. And thank God she did, because we sold it really well and had a nice little chunk of change. But I have held on to that and tried so hard not to do that.
And you just sent one of your oldest daughter to college.
Yeah, so the blessing I got for me that really saved me was I started teaching, which was great. I got a couple acting gigs, but the main thing was I got into looping, which is the hardest thing in the world.
That is the toughest. Looping.
So
it's like tell people what looping is.
So right now, if this was a scene and with this was full of patrons, well, none of these patrons would be allowed to speak because they'd be paid as actors. So what happens is a group of people go to an ADR booth and then they fill in that banter that's going on back there. We do it 2 or 3 times. There's like 6 people to fill it all in.
And you get residuals on this.
You get residuals on that. You cannot get in. It's just, you can't get in. And so I was investigating it. I was trying so hard to try to get in. But then a good friend of mine, so way back in the day, I was punching up cartoons at Disney with Nanachka Khan, who runs the show Fresh Off the Boat, Scott Gimple, who runs the show The Walking Dead, Eddie Gazalian and Matt Negretti, who are now doing a new spin-off of The Walking Dead, Laura, who is now running, I don't know why I'm blanking on the last name, but she was working, now she's running Fresh Off the Boat because Nanachka Khan went and got Netflix. I mean, this powerhouse room, it was crazy. Chris Nee, who created Doc McStuffins.
Yeah.
We were all just having punch-up stuff. Notch and I became friends, followed them, blow up. And during a time after my divorce, I went through a terrible, 6 months of depression and anxiety, and I was feeling really lost, and I went to lunch with her. But I was smart because I could have said, we always say, hey, you got a show, I'd love to be a guest on it, Well, what I was explained is to get them to write a part that's right for you, approve that part that's right for you, get you into casting, and you don't need, there's so many people.
So many.
Whereas it's a phone call to the post supervisor to say, hey, put Sean Whalen in the loop group. Now, loop group people do not.
They don't like this phone call.
They don't like that. And I've gone up to my loop group leaders and I've said, listen, if I was doing a short that I felt passionate about, and the guy who gave me money said, put my daughter in it, who doesn't have the experience, because these looping people have been doing it for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be happy. But I'm here because I was a good professional to Namachka Khan, who made that phone call for me. And that's been a blessing, because that show's gone on for 6 years, network reruns. It really bolstered me and gave me the freedom to, and I started teaching and I started coaching and I did workshops. I'm blessed to have my first job after, when we didn't talk theatrically, but before that I had gotten into a movie called People Under the Stairs.
Okay, that's a gigantic thing for you.
Well, that was the one. Okay, so while commercials
This is
were
what
going
happens when you have 130 IMDb credits.
Well,
it's so hard to cover everything in such a short time. But that's big for you.
That's what the milk commercial grew it up. But 2 years before that, I started doing theatrical. Pam Ellis was sending me out. My first one was Ferris Bueller, ironically, Ferris Bueller the series. And my first comedy scene was with
Were you friends with Alan Ruckman at this time yet?
No.
Okay.
So it was with Cloris Leachman. My first comedy TV show was with legendary
Legend,
who I was, Frau Brucker, come on. So, and then I had a coach, and that's what I'm doing now for people, is because I had studied at Groundling, studied at Playhouse West, but I didn't know how to marry the two.
Right.
And my coach would say, okay, this is more of a Groundling audition, this is more of a drama audition, and he studied at Stella Adler, Uta Hagen, so he was great to just work with me specifically. And so then I went into that audition for People Under the Stairs, and I was like, oh, it's a creepy guy crawling around. He goes, no, it's way more than that, and taught me how to break it down. And I got People Under the Stairs, and I got to work with Wes Craven. So,
I saw that at the movie theater, just for the record, at Universal, at the Universal.
Right?
Yeah, but go ahead.
And so it was a great first part. He was an amazing director, a blessing in my life, because I still go to horror conventions this day, and I got into the horror world because of that movie. So
and that's a big world.
That's a big world. So I went in, I did the movie, no big deal. Facebook starts to come out, and a friend of mine in New York, Vince Valeg, a very talented jazz drummer, he's been my friend since high school. I just mentioned, dude, this is just weird. I just have all these friend requests from people I don't know. He goes, dude, they're your fans. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, accept all of them right now.
Yes.
And I just went, accept it. And I remember sitting there just going, just accepting everyone. And it came flooding in. Please come to our convention. You're Roach from People Under the Stairs. Please, can you send me an autograph picture? Can you do and I thought, oh my God. So this whole new income stream opened up to me. And
how often do you do these things?
In a good year, like 4 to 6 would be great.
You fly there. You bring your own headshots?
Yep. You print them out. They fly me there. They put me up. I print out my own headshots. I have a banner I put up, and I have stuff from everything. My most important stuff was Twister. I'm sorry, People Under the Stairs. But then right after that is probably Twister, and then all my other movies, and then. You sign me guests. Now, some people don't really get it, and they just go, give it to them. This is if we did a play, we'd walk into the lobby, and all the people would say, hey, it was a great, and you talk to the people who saw the play. This is me talking to the people who have seen my work for years.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. I always make sure I take the time to get to know them and say hi to them, and it's a weird thing. I've been in your living room. I've been on your first date. I've been in your local movie theater. You just haven't been in mine. So, but I appreciate that, and I realize how much entertainment means to so much of the country.
Yes.
And I said this at a panel recently at a horror convention. I said, but you don't ever think that if you run into somebody on a bad day, please don't judge them 100%, because we go from, when we finish a gig, all we're doing is hustling for the next gig.
Yep.
So by the time we see you, or it comes out or something, that's 4 gigs ago.
Sure.
So for me, that was 100 gigs ago, but I still appreciate that you watch it. I had to make that shift. Some people were like, "Oh, just grab the money from those losers that just want your," I think I had that attitude for the first couple times, but then I thought, this is crazy. These are people who
really
are
like
coming over and saying, "I really appreciated your work."
Yeah.
So I changed my attitude very, very quickly and realized you know, I love people, and we have to love people. We're actors.
Exactly.
Brando never talked about himself. They'd say he would have a conversation. They would try to pull him out of the alley to get him back on the Broadway stage because he's talking to a cab driver. He's so
I love it.
fascinated.
I love it.
You gotta love people if you're in this business. So that's another income stream. I started teaching.
Okay, wait. Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
We're gonna start winding down here.
Yes, sir.
Because we're past the mark. So
Got it.
listen. Tell me. I'm gonna make this question longer so you can take a bite.
Go. I'm glad you're concerned about my health.
Yes. I want to know. Tell me all of the irons you have in the fire.
All right. Right now, I teach a sketch program, sketch comedy at Playhouse West.
Okay.
I do Skype coaching to some students around the world, around the country.
How do people get in touch with you on that?
They just go to SeanWhalenBiz@gmail.com. You
Okay.
email me.
Okay.
I'm currently not taking that many new students unless you have some experience. I do coaching to people that are local. I'll do a few actors that are local that come to my house.
Sure.
So that's my teaching. I do looping, and I'm hustling to get other shows through my producer showrunner friends.
How do you
So right
how do
now
you
I'm on-
hustle? How do you hustle really quick? I'm sorry.
I just email a friend and say, hey, you know, I just say right off the bat, say, hey, I know it's hard to get the person on the show. I said, but it's one quick phone call to the post supervisor to get me on looping. Could you just keep me in mind? And then as it gets closer and I watch trades and see if their shows got picked up, I'll reach out and say, hey, can you do that? And I'm doing with a couple friends of mine who are going to help me out on that. And it is hard because they really, you know, listen, they feel invaded, you know, but everybody's got to make their
Everybody,
insurance.
yeah,
And
everybody.
people who have looped have made very, very good money for many, 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 many years. And we get replaced, so
Yep.
that's part of the game. And I don't try to fault what they do. It is a skill. People go like anybody can do looping. No, it's a skill.
Yeah.
It's a skill just like anything. I hate when people dismiss it that way. So that's another thing I'm doing. I do a podcast on AfterBuzz TV called Acting Class Weekly with Sean Whalen. I do one-day workshops for Barra Theater in Pittsburgh, an acting school in Memphis, and in Nashville. I go and do workshops. I am doing a short horror film that I wrote and directed. That's coming out. But you know, most of these things are spec, right? And then I'm developing a TV show, a play that I co-wrote that was in Hollywood for 9 months, and we're moving that into television. We have an interested production company that wants us to develop that. So yeah, I own 2 pieces of property in Pittsburgh. So
I
I'm
pick up my daughters
nonstop.
from school. I stream Netflix. I sit. I mean, dude, we all need to be like you, Sean. So
Yeah.
that's very impressive that you got all that stuff.
Well, I
going
know
on.
some, and it's funny because it's only every once in a while, like this morning, that I go, wow, I haven't been out in a while. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I, you know, I get blessed every once in a while because of the horror community. And I knew my friend of mine made a short that I did, or a feature film, showed it to Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie, this 10 years ago on Halloween 2, put me in his movie. And then recently texted me and said, hey, do you want to be in my Devil's Rejects sequel, which is one of his highest grossing movies he's done in a long time, this sequel that just came out. So that's going to reinvigorate my horror
Awesome.
thing. So I'm just always throwing spaghetti at the wall, because if I don't, I will be like some of my friends. I get together with them and they go, wow, this business has turned its back on me. And I go, if I did that, I'd go crazy. Like, I have to try to keep hustling other things, you know. Today I'm going downtown to teach, and I just finished my sketch. I'm doing my sketch show directing, and tonight I'm going to teach a place downtown where they met me through a student who recommended me. That's a youth hostel place. I go down there and teach improv.
Look at you, man.
I mean, I'm just trying to keep all the irons in the fire and hold on to that house money.
Amen,
I just don't
brother.
want to deplete that.
Dude,
now.
that's awesome. Okay, here's some last questions
Yes,
for
sir.
you, really quick. Worst day or worst time in Hollywood?
I think I mentioned it. It was when I had a
By the way,
brand new
wait.
baby.
This is not personal. I'm talking about referring to the business only.
Oh, to the business only. Recently, I went into an audition for a very big another show that was guaranteed to be on, going in for a series regular. It was a parody. It was a parody of Spock and Hal from 2001.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? That's not even as worse. I had a worse one. But this one's pretty bad. It's pretty equal. But it was a parody, and it was a huge casting director. And they said, "Oh, well, don't do that. Don't be like Spock. Just do something different." I go, "Well, it's a parody." And she said, "Yeah, but that's we've seen that before. I mean, do something different. Like make him a little more animated and stuff." And the writing is there, the description of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was a rebel. It was the worst day, but it was the best gift because I walked out of the room. My agent's like, "Do you know how big she?" Because I didn't even finish the scene. She didn't like what I was doing.
Really?
Meanwhile, I leave. And I got nervous, because my gut, I knew this was wrong, you know? And I felt, and this wasn't that long ago, it was like a few years ago. And the long story short, my agents were like, "Do you know how big she is? Do you think you can?" I said, "Here's the deal. Sometimes they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
And
that
we
is true.
always the first one to beat ourselves up is us.
Yep.
And I went, no, and that's why I teach my students, it's a date. You wouldn't ever walk away from a bad date and go, it's all my fault. But that's what it is. It's you don't know. It's that vibe. It's that day. Are they having a good day? She was bored with hearing it. So she, Funny thing was, 6 months later they go, "Yeah, they're having trouble casting that part," and I chuckled. Then 8 months later they put me on hold for the part because I was the only one. And then I ended up not going. And then of course I just tuned into the show and of course they did it like a parody of Spock. Of course. But it was just it was a horrible feeling to go, what's happening? Am I crazy? And then you finally, but that revelation in that piece was, no, we're not crazy. Sometimes they don't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Sometimes they're just trying to mix up their day.
Yes,
Sometimes,
yes.
And they use us as their reason. They're not bad people, and I know she's a great casting director, and I know she's done amazing work. But that was just a bad date, what I called it. And that's what kind of, it was a freedom to know, you know what, sometimes I know more than you.
Best time in Hollywood?
Best time in Hollywood was going to the Twister premiere.
Really?
Because I was on the set of Men in Black. And now I just found out that so that was the saddest part. I was Tommy Lee Jones' assistant. Booked me on Friday. The part, I would have done it for free, Clint. It was the best part in the world.
Yeah.
It was the best part. They wrote it out, and that's why they got the little cigarette smoking things.
Yes.
That was supposed to be me as an alien. But I was on that set. He said, "Listen, we got rid of that part, but we have to put you in something." They put me in a little something, but the day was going on, and I said, "Can I just cross out?" I'm one of the busy people in the background almost. And I said, "Can I?" And he said, "Yeah, no worries." And I said, "I'm going to my premiere."
Sean, I'm sorry, what does cross out mean? I don't know if I know.
Crossing out means there's a big, busy background thing
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
I've already done my little bit, and I just want to grab a file and walk out of the scene.
Okay,
so
okay,
I'm
okay.
not seen in the
Gotcha,
background anymore.
gotcha.
So thank you for that. And I remember leaving and going, you know what? I'm leaving a set for a big movie to go to a premiere. And I pulled into Westwood, where I'd gone to UCLA, and in that huge Bruin Theater is the huge Twister premiere.
Yes, wow.
And you're walking on the red carpet, and I remember Mark and Brian loved me.
Yes.
And I ended up calling their radio show for a few weeks after because they loved me and stuff. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is probably one of the funnest days that, I'm actually doing it. And I don't know if you ever had this when you try out at Paramount or Gower Studios, and you have a really good audition, and then you're driving up Gower and you see the Hollywood sign, and you just go,
"Oh yeah,
I'm here, man.
Yeah,
I'm actually living it." There's people who are dreaming just to be on this street, let alone doing it. So that was one of the best days for sure.
Sean, what do you want? What do you want to achieve now, really quickly? What's the thing?
I really want to get my horror comedy off the ground. As a friend of mine who we were talking.
If I can grant one thing, this is going to be the thing. You don't want a series anymore. You just want the horror.
No.
What's the thing? If I'm granting you something,
the granting
yes.
thing, a single camera, or no, a half hour single camera or 3 camera lead in a really good, respected, funny sitcom.
Any last piece of advice for an actor out there? The quickest advice you could give an actor?
Stay busy, create your own material, be proactive. The agent only gets 10%. The 90% is your responsibility.
I love that one. Sean, do me one last favor. Will you tell everybody out there goodbye?
Goodbye, everybody. Thank